I just realized I was muted. I just say GM and familiar faces to 08, and thanks Frangio for coming in. Victor John, good to meet you. Todd, GM, Moses, Humpy Gold, uh, Bruce, Vectors. Did I miss anyone? But thank you for coming. Um, Thank you very much. And especially I'm very happy to see Zero Age. Thanks for joining today. Congratulations on your launch, a big launch for Seaport 1.6. I've been following you for a lot of developments, mostly directly on Etherscan, but finally get to meet you. We use the Crunch, Create 2 Crunch that you um, uh, created and inspired by your homework and many things. So very happy and congrats on launching it.
Thank you very much.
A quick
homework.
Right.
OG.
Homework. That was a good old time, right? That was quite some time. You were ahead of everyone for so long. And yeah, if anyone has not
really is useful now in the Cancun era. Part of what
right,
was
definitely
redeploy, but it was one of the first on-chain NFTs.
It is. It definitely is, and it's a useful NFT. I even think of building something on top of it. Actually, I can share with you later. But let's make it about Seaport and good congratulations. Before that, a quick rundown of agenda today. We have a pretty good agenda. All ERC devs, a quick intro is we're trying to bring the builder of ERCs together. Of course, it will start with authors, but more importantly, it's about adopters because only adopters adoption matters. So we have been having a lot of authors proposing things. That's great, but we also think that it is very important that we bring the adopters like OpenSea, influential adopters, entity markets, wallets, and so that's what we're trying to do. This is the second one in our second season. We do about 12 episodes in last year, and this is the second one. And it's meant for a quick show and tell. Usually it's align each agenda items 10. So usually it will like a 5 minutes quick chat, and then people will kind of briefly give comments or raise questions. And then usually we have 3 items, right? Today we have 3 items, and I'll also have a 5-minute spotlight for governance issues. They're not meant to be resolving everything right here. They're meant to bring eyes and attentions from high quality presenter and high quality reviewers. That's what we're trying to do. Also, GM Siyu from Uniswap and GM Rohan Sanjay and GM Jack, co-founder of eSign, is a good crowd, and we're very honored to have our first presenter, Zero Age, which I respect a lot, and I've been stalking a lot on Etherscan for. So congratulations. Go ahead, take the 10 minutes of introducing Seaport, ask for feedback, and get people adopting the hook architecture.
Thank you very much. Yes, so Seaport 1.6 was just deployed, I think it's about a week and a half ago now. And it's an incremental version update from 1.5. The interface for actually calling Seaport is unchanged. But in the background, there's a new zone call. And the addition of this extra zone call really brought Seaport into a new era that we're describing as the hooks era. So I'll just share. I'm going to just share in the chat here a link to a description of Seaport hooks in Seaport 1.6. And I think it's a particularly exciting upgrade because Seaport hooks make the protocol much more extensible. So you can inherit all of the security properties of the base Seaport with a lot of additional flexibility and extensibility. The first application of Seaport hooks on OpenSea is creator earnings enforcement on ERC 721C and 1155C contracts. But I think that really it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you can do with hooks. A lot of exciting things around taking an NFT and then immediately doing something with the NFT, or allowing NFTs to leverage Seaport in ways that are beneficial to that collection and have more control over how Seaport is used. Prior to Seaport hooks, it was sort of an all or nothing proposition. And for instance, creators that didn't want to use Seaport for buying and selling their NFTs without royalties were just out of luck and were forced to block Seaport or conduits wholesale. So the three flavors of hooks. The first and most practical hook for the majority of applications are zone hooks. Seaport has this notion of zones. Every order that you create, you can specify a zone for that order. By default, a zone is able to cancel an order on behalf of the offerer who creates the order, even on an open order. But there's also, you can specify a type of order called a restricted order. And if you specify that the order is restricted, then Seaport will call the zone. In 1.5, it just called it once after all the tokens had been transferred, called this validate order endpoint. And in Seaport 1.6, it actually calls the zone twice. Once before any tokens have been transferred, it calls authorize order, and then it follows up with a call to validate order afterwards. This lets, like, the way that we handle creator earnings enforcement is that by leveraging a zone, which in turn calls a registry and sets a T-store flag for a specific token ID in a collection, or incrementing a specific amount for a specific token ID, for instance, for 1155 tokens, then the token can call that registry when it's being transferred and say, has this flag been set? And if it has, then it'll let the token transfer go through. If it hasn't, then it'll revert. So this pattern, which we call the authorizer pattern, in contrast to the operator pattern, which is just only specific contracts can move your tokens, enables a more expressive mode of creator earnings enforcement, whereby you can transfer a token multiple times. Say you're matching a couple of different orders, or you're a solver or something like that. Or you want to take the token and sell it on another marketplace. So buy it from one marketplace, sell it into another. You only have to pay the royalty once. And you're not limited to specific operators in the same way. The next big use case for Seaport hooks that are zone hooks are dynamic traits. So I would say about 6 months ago, we started work on a standard for NFTs that have traits that are queryable from other contracts. And if you want to buy an NFT contingent on it possessing a specific trait, say the NFT is redeemable for another NFT, or there's a number of interesting cases where the value of an NFT might be contingent on it possessing some dynamic trait. Now you can leverage zone hooks to ensure that when you're buying an NFT or selling an NFT, that it still has some specific trait. That's another fast follow that we're looking to support. And it's so that's the first category of hook. The second are called contract hooks. So when you have a contract order, this is a specific type of seaport order where the offerer is a contract, say another protocol or marketplace. You might envision a lending protocol where you put up NFTs as collateral in order to borrow against them. If the value of that NFT falls and you get a liquidation, like the NFT needs to be auctioned off to ensure that the loan doesn't fall beneath its value, then a contract order can dynamically generate a seaport order. So the way that a contract order works is rather than signing an order, submitting it to an API, or fulfilling an off-chain signed order, the contract itself will dynamically generate the order at the time that the order is fulfilled. So you can write adapters that plug into other sources of on-chain liquidity, or that price an NFT based on a bonding curve, or any number of things. So a contract order is a very expressive flavor of hook. It also has a generate order pre-hook that when you create the contract order and submit it, you just specify the minimum number of tokens that are required to be received back from the contract offerer as the offer, and the contract offerer can then offer additional tokens. It can increase that minimum received and give you more, right? If it's more advantageous for the fulfiller to do that. But the fulfiller bounds, okay, I need to get this many back. And similarly, the fulfiller specifies the maximum number of tokens that they are willing to spend as the consideration on the order. And the contract offerer then gets to, it can reduce those amounts or remove maximum spent, remove consideration items that it returns. Then there's also a post hook, a ratify order call after all the tokens have been transferred. So if you are looking to, basically, if you are a creator or an end user or marketplace that's looking to craft a specific type of order or constrain what Seaport can do, you would use a zone hook. If you are a protocol that's looking to interoperate with the rest of the Seaport ecosystem or liquidity that's on Seaport, including other off-chain orders, you would reach for a contract hook. Finally, for the case where you need a hook that's triggered mid-execution, so not before any tokens have been transferred or after tokens have been transferred, there is also this concept of an item hook. An item hook is a construct where rather than supplying a vanilla item, you provide a synthetic item as part of an order, where the token is actually a contract that performs additional verification logic or processing or whatever you need mid-flight. So the fulfiller has a good deal of latitude as to what order executions or token transfers are performed. And by inserting an item hook mid-flight, you can take a token, move it to one place, then trigger an item hook, cause some action to be performed, and then finalize the execution. So this is something that is leveraged by, I think, I just spoke with a project that was doing this for ERC20. It's like a an options protocol that's using Seaport, and they're leveraging item hooks. There's 3 flavors of these. One is the synthetic token that we sort of just described, where you're not actually supplying a token, you're supplying a contract that just implements the transfer from or safe transfer from interface. Then the other flavors of item hook are where you leverage the recipient on the item, and by performing either a native token transfer or an 1155 transfer, which has an on-received callback, you're able to react to that transfer and perform whatever additional logic you need to. So between these 3 flavors of hook, you are able to inherit all of the security properties of Seaport and the guarantees that it provides. And also for both zone hooks and contract hooks, you have a mechanic where you can leverage the fact that if Seaport is the caller to your contract, be it zone or the contract offerer, you know that whatever consideration items you report back or attest to, that those tokens are going to be transferred. So you can use it for things like flash loans and just deferred execution, where in contrast to the traditional flash loan pattern where you have to go through a router that performs some logic and then returns the call frame to the original flash loaner, then lets it perform checks and clean up. You can instead loan out tokens and then just count on the fact that you're going to be called back. You will have an opportunity to react to that call. So this is a pretty technical nuance, but I think it does open up new possibilities for architectures that provide more flexibility and a different mode of operation. Anyway, that is the high level what Seaport hooks are all about. If anybody is interested in building on these primitives, please do reach out. We're looking to collaborate with the broader community. Seaport is a permissionless hyperstructure and is only as strong as the community that's using it and building on it. So whatever we can do to bring people that are interested into the fold, don't hesitate to reach out. Come join this Seaport working group on Discord. I'm going to share a link to said Discord in the chat, and I'll hand it off to whoever's next.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zero Age. This is exciting. I'm glad that you're here to call for adoptions. And I also happen to notice that Seaport has its own improvement proposal where you can go ahead and kind of discuss how they can be used as well. And
yes, this is a very important additional point here. So this Seaport Improvement Proposals Repository, or SIPs, is important because if you're building a new zone or a new contract offer, it is critical that marketplaces and aggregators and participants in the ecosystem understand how to interact with your tool. And if others are trying to solve similar problems, we can coalesce on common patterns that solve these problems in a way that is understandable by the rest of the ecosystem, and share the learnings and solutions to those problems. So by all means, if you do decide to build on Seaport, I highly encourage you to leverage some of these existing SIPs, SIP 5 in particular, and SIP 6, which are highlighted here in this doc, are sort of foundational SIPs for defining events and getters and encoding syntax for how to broadcast that you are compliant with a different SIP and to conform to the requirements of that SIP. So it allows marketplaces like OpenSea detect that you're using a given SIP and to format seaport fulfillments so that those orders can be fulfilled.
Alrighty. Thank you, 08. Thank you for sharing the seaport. We intended to have 10 minutes. It'll go a little bit over, but I'm sure if so, we can allow one quick question before we move on to the next agenda, and then we'll also have additional, I think, 15 minutes afterwards for all topics all together for Q&A. But if anyone wants to have a quick response or question with 08 on this particular topic, you can kind of raise your hand at the moment.
I got questions, but we'll save it for the end.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. By the way, GM William, good to see you here. Of course, people can now use the seaport hooks to earn more royalty for the creator, thanks to OpenSea. So I think it's great to see you guys collaborate asynchronously over years in this sense. So and William, Yan Yu, welcome to the group. Yeah, whoever I haven't greeted, GM to you. Let's move on to the next topic. Where was my? All right, second topic would be ERC 7529 DNS over HTTPS. And
Cool.
I think it's Todd. So Todd, do you want to present, or I can present it? But yeah, if you can present,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
I've got a tiny slide deck that the slides are available to anybody if they want to take a look at them later. I can just flip through them here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okie dokie. So thanks for having me on and letting me talk about ERC 7529. So this was a effort that came out of some stuff that we were working on at Snickerdoodle Labs. Basically, we needed a way for an iframe to automatically detect if the parent domain it was embedded in was associated with a smart contract on any given network, and we needed this to be able to happen in as decentralized, permissionless of a way as possible. And we didn't want to be opinionated about how what service you were using, things like this. And so we came up with the specification here in ERC 7529. So, a little additional motivation here. And I think this topic is actually pretty relevant to a lot of people on the call. Anybody working on digital asset marketplaces or DEXs, things like that. This is probably, I think, fairly relevant to all those kinds of projects. So finding the right smart contracts associated with the project can be tough. It can really be tough for people that are new to the digital asset space. So if I say, quick, tell me the contract addresses for like USDC on all these different chains. Maybe somebody in this call has them memorized, maybe not. Or like a stable coin like PYUSD, do you know the Ethereum address? Do you know the Polygon address? That was actually a trick question. There's actually not an official PYUSD on Polygon, but there's some fake ones on there that will happily rug your money. One thing I see coming up a lot, particularly with one of my favorite NFT artists, PR Guitar Man, and his Nyan Cat NFT. He's having lots of problems with people scamming his customers, making fake Nyan Cat NFTs, and then people buy them and they get mad. And there's not a good way to find the right smart contract associated with a website that is the right website, but how do you find the right smart contract? And then let's say you found the smart contract. How do you know it was, you found one on like Etherscan or Polygon Scan, something like that. How do you know it's the one associated with the website that you came from, that you heard about it from? So that's the motivation there. An insight is that, well, this has been a problem outside of Web3 and blockchain for a long time, particularly with emails. Anybody that's ever set up an email domain knows about problems with people spoofing your emails, getting spoofed emails from people. And that's why things like DKIM, SPF, DMARC records, that's what those were. That's why those standards were brought about, was to prevent email spoofing. So you protect email spoofing basically with a very simple TXT record. It has a specific naming scheme. You put certain data in the value field, and it does a pretty good job of protecting email. So how does that bring us to the topic of blockchain and connecting on-chain assets and on-chain logic with DNS? About 6 years ago, there was an RFC 8484, which introduced DNS over HTTPS. I don't know if many people on the call are familiar with this RFC, but prior to the introduction and adoption of RFC 8484 by all the major domain name providers, it was essentially not possible for a web app to independently talk to, domain name records. If you wanted to do that, you would have to you have to stand up your own proprietary API that would, serve the records for you. Not very decentralized, not very permissionless. So one of the core goals of DNS over HTTPS was literally to allow a web app to talk securely and directly to DNS servers and fetch DNS records. Like, that was the point of it. And then, there's lots of domain name providers that have free DOH endpoints now. Google domains, which is now Squarespace, Cloudflare, a bunch of them have free DOH endpoints. You can hit them all day long. So the idea is that we'll use the concept that's protecting emails. And so what a site will do, or what a blockchain project can do, is you put a simple TXT record in your DNS configurations. It has a naming scheme like this. So the host name would be ERC-7529, the chain ID that your contracts are on, followed by _ domain contracts. Why that naming scheme? That's pretty much what DKIM records look like. Similar host naming scheme. And then the value field of your TXT records, literally just a comma-separated list of contract addresses associated with your site. And once you've thrown that into your DNS records, I got an example over here at Snickerdoodle. Like, here's one right here. We have Cloudflare. There's our ERC-7529 TXT record. So I've got something on the Fuji testnet, and there's my contract that we've deployed on the Fuji testnet. And then on your smart contract, you have a super simple interface that you put onto your smart contract. You have some optional events that you can put onto it. You don't have to have these events, like, they're not strictly necessary, but you can have these optional events: add domain and remove domain. There's one single storage variable called domains, which is simply a mapping from a bytes 32 to a bool. So that bytes 32 is just the key hash of what's called the ETLD +1. If you don't know what an ETLD +1 is, it's basically like, if you look at this docs.google.com, the ETLD +1 is google.com. So for 99% of the cases, it's the thing after the top level domain plus the top level domain. That's almost always what the ETLD +1 is. So this is a mapping from the hash of the ETLD +1 to a bool. And then you've got a getter check domain. So a client-side application can call the smart contract and say, is snickerdoodle.com associated with this contract, and it'll return true or false, or example.com, true or false. So the contract will tell you yes or no, is it associated with an ETLD +1? And then there's a couple of authenticated methods, add domain, remove domain. Depending on the point of the project, you can authenticate these in different ways. In our project, we just use the Open Zeppelin access control library, and if you have the default admin role, you can add and subtract domains. But then essentially what's happened here is that you've got your DNS records, you've got your smart contract, separate systems, they have to agree to each other, and you've got pretty good guarantees that you've discovered a contract that is definitely associated with the domain. I know I'm almost out of time. Here's a super quick demo. Very simple web app. So if I type in snickerdoodle.com, enter, there's my contract, and it confirmed, yeah, that one's verified on Fuji Network. That contract's definitely associated with snickerdoodle.com. So I think I'm out of time. I'll pause there. Any questions? That was a quick presentation for 7529.
I think William raised his hand.
Hey, Todd.
Go ahead.
Sharon, I love this idea. This is something we talked about before. Victor and I were talking about how DNS is identity. DNS is your identity, and we need to leverage this where other identities are necessary. I left you 2 feedback on the chat there. I think there's some existing approaches we can look at. One of them is this approach. First of all, I'm getting technical, right? So the idea is great, but there's specifically there's 2 things. This approach doesn't scale to a lot of contracts on the DNS way. There's a way we can fix that. DKIM does that already, so we can just steal the way they do it. And also the ETLD +1, there's already something else that we can look at that Mozilla maintains a list for exactly the type of thing you're doing, and it's more sophisticated than ETLD +1, or maybe that's what you're referring to, but I have a link to that. So this is great. I want to see this happen. In the rationale, we should explain why we're not allowing meta, HTTP meta or HTTP headers. I think people are going to ask that question, and I don't want that. I want what you have, and I want to shut down those discussions because this is the right way to do it. Also, in your go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, whatever the ecosystem settles on, I think it could be a massive user experience improvement. You go to something like Etherscan, and you can just, like a Google search, right? Google search kind of like find these contracts with something that I'm looking for, and it can be totally automatic. No question, you found what you're looking for.
For this Snickerdoodle example, can you show us where did it query that? Because you're querying the mapping. So was it reading chain history?
So this when I hit enter in this little web app demo, it's hitting the Cloudflare DOH endpoint, fetching this little TXT record that I showed over here, and then using an arbitrary RPC to interrogate the contract. To
verify heads up or heads down.
Exactly.
Got it. So you're doing the DNS first and then the contract second.
Right. You could go the other way. Like you could look at the contract first and go the other way. That's just how this example is set up.
Oh, because you've got the URL. You're going to ask the contract with this specific DNS.
Yeah. So I specifically said, is there anything on snickerdoodle.com? And it said, I found it. It says, 0xCOEF is associated with it. And then I asked that contract, are you actually associated with snickerdoodle.com? And it returned true.
Yeah. And this is absolutely something. MetaMask it's very sad where MetaMask is right now. You can't even trade NFTs on MetaMask without having to decode hex. Like it's complete embarrassment. So if MetaMask, and also we already have EIP 712, we should just start over with user interfaces and build this into a little green checkbox, little green lock symbol.
You could totally do that.
Sign them, and
you
this
could do it. You could absolutely do it.
It's like we're coming into the 21st century with this. I love it.
Yeah. So for whatever feedback, please go ahead and don't forget to put it in Etherscan. I think this is intended to be a good starting point of the conversation. I love the idea. I think it's worthy of discussion. I know that Francio is raising hands. I wonder if we should like move on to the next topic and then come over all together, make sure all three topics can get a chance, and then everyone can have to use the left time to talk about it, if that's okay. All right, thank you, Frangia. Yeah, if you want, like, put down some reminder, like I put down some reminder for myself about what feedback I want to give. But yeah, thanks for the presentation, Todd. Let's, if you guys don't mind, let's make sure the third topic get a chance to talk about as well. To talk, I think the third one would be ERC 5169 and an adoption from Victor Zhang. So I think Victor Zhang is here. You can take it over, and hopefully we can also end it in 10 minutes. If you want to get feedback or get more feedback, you can save 5 minutes in it and let people give you feedback. But you can also use the whole 10 minutes.
Well, I will be quick. I will save some time for everyone to ask more questions. So since we only have 5 minutes, so I won't go into any technical details. So it's mainly to provide some idea or inspirations on how to leverage this Ethereum standard, the ERC 5169. The standard itself is quite simple and it's very straightforward. It's basically just enable each token to carry a script with it. And for whatever that script is for, that is defined by the script writer or the token issuers. So if you're interested to have a look at the ERC, there's a QR code pointed to the link. So I only have 3 slides. So the first one is some basic idea. So what a token with a script can do. So basically, I list down some examples on the right-hand side, starting with some simple token all the way to some complex token. So the most simple token, in my opinion, of course, is all those DeFi token, because most of the token logic are fully provided by on-chain smart contract. So, and also most of the using scenario of those DeFi token are also, most of them are used in smart contract as well. They are not really used in other digital systems. So use a DAI token as example, plus a script, what it can do. The first thing is in the script, the DAI token MakerDAO, the token deployer, they can define the script to call all those customized token functions, which are not standardized by ERC20, like how to withdraw more DAI token by collateral more ETH, or how to return the DAI token to get the underlayer ETH out. All those functions are non-standardized ERC contract interface. So they can write a script for any third party to easily call the contract, to use the contract. And also the script they provided is more trustworthy because they are the party who deploy the contract. So they can sign the script to make it trustable. And besides those customized smart contract functions, they can even write a script to provide some official trusted bridges for bridge the DAI token to different networks, and they can even connect the script to official verified trusted on-ramp, off-ramp services. And also another thing I can imagine is the most simple thing. DAI token only have an English name, which is the DAI, and there are many other languages as well. And how about in Japanese? What DAI token should be officially called? All these things, they can be included in the script and along with the token. In the token contract, they put the script URI, follow the ERC 5169, and then they point it to a script to explain all these token logics. And a slightly complex token like the ENS name token. So that token, for example, say besides the standardized ERC 7721 or 1155 contract interface, ENS token does provide a lot of other smart contract functions like add, change record, renew, all those things. And currently, users have to go through the web interface to use all those token functions. With a script, basically, the token itself can provide its own interface for people to call easily, leveraging those smart contract functions. And also, if ENS interested, they can easily put a script to turn each ENS NFT token as a social portal. For example, enable people to send end-to-end encrypted message to each other through the ENS token interface, or start a forum, discuss something together, or share your something like your Facebook, share your own pictures and enable your followers to see. All those things are possible with a token, with a script in the token. And the next thing is example. Yes.
I remember you have a good demo. Actually, it works in some of the exchanges, and then maybe that would make it easier, so much easier for people to kind of get a sense. You're iterating the examples. I wonder if you want to really show the actual adoptions, because I see them somewhere, I think they're amazing. So
that can be in the,
is that a better way? I was just wondering.
That is in the next page. So,
oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So these are just some ideas. Like a ticket token with a script, you can provide a dynamic map. You can do token-based notification to let people know when is the event happening, where to go, and they can even provide the interface to interact with the actual gate, to really use the token to pass the gate, to watch the game, all those things. So how we actually using this ERC? These are some ideas of what this ERC can enable. They can attach different scripts, and how as a company. Sorry, I think I didn't introduce myself. I'm one of the co-founder of the Smart Layer. So at Smart Layer, how we use this ERC is basically we combine our token script framework with this ERC. So use this ERC to point it to a token script file. And we use this token script file serves as the token frontend. And with this programmable frontend, we are able to describe what this token function or the token knowledge, not only describe those smart contract-based token logics, also including other token logics may be provided by a centralized server. Basically, we treat token as a new object, as a kind of like a mini application of the token itself. And here is a demo. You can, it's a live product. You can try it by yourself. We developed this game to demonstrate what the token interface can do. Let me share. Okay.
Can you share the link?
Yeah, I share how this this token with its own front end works in a wallet. So, for example, this is a web-based wallet. It's called a join ID. It uses a passkey to direct key to sign transactions on different blockchains. So they are compatible with ERC 5169 and also token script. So, and this NFT token is following the ERC 721 standardized interface, and also have ERC 5169 interface, and is pointed to its own token frontend. and this wallet is able to render this front end. So it's have all these functions right in the NFT token. So you can name your cat. It is in as a subdomain, and you can check the cat's bell. For example, this point is recorded in the centralized server, and level is recorded in the smart contract. And how many times you feed your cat, all these things, they are recorded in smart contract. And also all the friends you have, all the relationship are in smart contract. But all the messages, for example, if I want to message my friend, another cat, really got some message. So all these messages are end-to-end encrypted. And those messages are stored on the centralized server. It's not on the blockchain.
It's like you can provide an URL just like how Farcaster is requesting you to give a URL for a frame.
Yeah, kind of. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we are working on the integration with forecast frame. So later you will be able to use this type of token right inside the forecaster.
Yeah. Cool. I guess is that all the demo you have, Victor? I guess we're at time, and we should give if it allows, we should probably give more time to the general discussion.
Yes, that's all the demo. The last page is just something to think about. We've been working since 2017, the end of 2017, and all the things we do is all around token. We do believe tokenization is the killer use case for blockchain, and the token is the most important thing, the most important object.
Cool. Thank you, Victor. I think that's all for the 3 presentations and feedback. And I think it's a good time for us to open up for 10 minutes for the general discussion. As we want to, if any one of you have any questions or comments from the previous topic, please do. And then I just want to recognize Francisco actually raised hands before we started the 3rd topic. Oh, actually, Victor, are you say something?
Yes. So it's I just want to add something for Todd and also William, because Todd is working on how to actually link the website with the contract to be able to verify. And William mentioned about that blue or green pixie. We actually did an experiment back in 2018 for FIFA, the football organization, for the Football World Cup tickets tokenization, Football World Cup Russia. And they have a very strict requirements. One of the requirements is they ask us how you are able to guarantee the contract people see, the FIFA contract, FIFA token people see is actually from us, if not someone say they are FIFA contract. And at that time, what we do is we require FIFA to use his website's SSL key to sign the actual script, to sign the actual token script. And then by verifying the signature, user is able to see this token is actually provided by the same people who owns the SSL key of the website, and also is provided a trust token for the token itself. And we do have that green tick on the next to the token in our own open source wallet. Is the Alpha wallet at that time. It can be an option to think about. And sorry, am I allowed to ask more questions to the CPOT?
I think your time for this particular topic is up. I think we should give, but thank you for sharing that. I think it's very helpful for you to put that into into contact. And I also realized that there's a general theme across all three of this topic today is about interoperability, right? In your case, it would be having tokens point to a URL that runs a script. And then in Todd's presentation, it's about letting domains point to DNS, letting DNS contract point to DNS, DNS point to contract in a mutual hook. And in Zero Age presentation about OpenSea Seaport 1.6 is about introducing hooks for general interoperability between contract with Seaport. So I want to make sure that we have we have some time for general questions and also be fair to previous two topics that have saved time for further discussion. So Victor, if you don't mind, I will just open up for previously Francisco, if you still want to comment. I'd love to give you time for the question that you didn't get to ask or feedback you didn't get to give.
I actually had two questions, one for Zero Age, the other for Todd. I'll go first to Zero Age. So I think hooks are really cool to make protocols permissionlessly extensible. But I've been thinking about the Uniswap hooks, and there is this question about like whitelisting that will happen in many places, right? So maybe the Uniswap UI will be whitelisting certain hooks, and this, or like arbitrageurs will also be whitelisting which hooks they interact with. I think purely out of security reasons, because the hooks can have a lot of power. So I was wondering if there was a similar issue with Seaport hooks, and if you have any thoughts on how to address that. I know you talked about the SIPs a little, but I'm not sure if that's like the main part of how to tackle this.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So the first sort of obvious piece of this is that the underlying protocol is, of course, totally permissionless. And so it's not like you need to get approval to create a hook that can hook into it. That being said, the applications that are built on top of it can choose to support various hooks or not. And that can be a question of whitelisting due to security reasons. It could also just be a question of only understanding how to interact with certain hooks, right? There might be requirements that a given application just doesn't know how to fulfill. So there's also just the question of how do I actually utilize this hook? Both of those are improved via standardization. And that being said, in Seaport's case, there are a number of protocol level assurances that are provided so that in particular, you can match against an order that leverages hooks, and assuming it works, you know that you're going to get what it tells you. Even if you're interacting with, for instance, a malicious contract order, it doesn't really matter because worst case scenario, Seaport is going to catch that it's trying to do something malicious and revert the transaction if you don't get what you ask for. So there are definitely protocol level protections baked in. And it's similar to like the conduit idea. It's very dangerous to approve a conduit that's controlled by an untrusted party, because they could add new channels to that conduit to steal your tokens. But you could match against an order that uses a conduit that you personally don't trust, and that's still totally safe for the counterparty, because you know that that conduit is either going to transfer the tokens to you, or it's going to throw if, for instance, the channel got closed or something. So similar idea with hooks. Another interesting and related point is that by making a protocol more expressive via something like hooks, you can use that expressivity to use the protocol in a more restrictive fashion, sort of like a 180 from the base layer expressivity, where you now have the flexibility to become inflexible. right? And the creator earnings enforcement is a really good example of that, where we're leveraging the expressivity to enable you to use the protocol in a more restrictive fashion. So there's definitely a double-edged sword there. I think that as a community and an ecosystem, we just have an ongoing obligation to support and champion the applications that are in keeping with the overall ethos of the space, and to promote the best standards and safe practices to keep people safe, and to promote the future we want to build. But you're absolutely right. It's an important consideration.
Okay, no, that's a good answer. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the protocol kind of has maybe more guarantees than what I got from my first read of Uniswap before, which makes it a easier call. So I'll just go on to my second question to Todd, and I wanted to ask, how does your ERC compare to ENS, which also supports DNS names, right? And a similar kind of thing through also ENS reverse resolution.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be complementary to ENS. Like ENS could leverage. The real thing here isn't, the real innovation wasn't like our interface that we came up or anything like that. The real thing we discovered was that DNS over HTTPS was invented not that long ago, like 6 years ago, and the domain providers didn't support it until like 2020. So, prior to that, you couldn't really do this. So ENS, the fact that it already supports, DNS domains, you can add a DNS domain to an ENS token. The thing there would be connecting it to, or leveraging DOH to verify what the on-chain contract is saying. Like, that's the real kicker, is the DOH capability that's available now.
Cool. I think we're at time. I can go over a little bit longer, and then I see Zero Age is generous to stay a little bit longer for more questions. And if anyone else need to leave, it's totally okay. Thank you for coming. I can stay. So let's try to see if we can wrap it up in about 5 minutes. Any more questions for Todd, for Victor, for Zero Age?
I'll throw one in. Hey, what's up? Zero Age, love your code. I read all of it. I love the test cases, from the Rust to the TypeScript, all of it. Innovation.
I appreciate that.
All the time. I have a quick question about your item gate, or your the item callbacks. So where does that fit in? Is that an optional thing from the taker, or is it, because that's kind of weird? You're kind of having this phantom tokens.
It's very weird. Yeah, item hooks are definitely, like, we at OpenSea actively discourage people from using item hooks unless it is strictly necessary, because it is a sort of unintuitive solution, right? And brittle. It's the way that Seaport is set up. You have a lot of latitude as the fulfiller or taker, where you can specify the order that you want to transfer tokens and compose different Seaport orders into sort of arbitrary executions. And so, yeah, it's more, that is a tool that the taker or fulfiller could elect to use, but it's not something that you could really reach for as a maker to give you, or an offerer in Seaport parlance, to give you ironclad assurances.
Right, so it's a zero. From Seaport's perspective, it's a fizzle, but from the taker's perspective, they could shove it in there. All right, last note, and I want to leave on this, but I have to say it. I really hope OpenSea doesn't try to make Seaport built in as a required place to transfer stuff. I do not want Operator Registry 2.0. We decimated OpenSea last time that happened. I don't want to do it again.
The
No comment.
operator filter model has gone the way of the dodo. I'm happy to report we have a much more flexible and powerful way of doing the same thing that does not. It's the scalpel versus the sledgehammer.
My concern was the required and market dominant participant. We had an Apple Epic situation, and I'm fighting for Epic every day. So we had one of those things going against OpenSea, and I voted for Blur every day until Blur started their loyalty points. Now that they're dominant, now I'm voting for whoever's third. But OpenSea's got great tech, it's got great people, and I don't want to see this mistake again.
I am very much in support of a vibrant and diverse ecosystem of marketplaces and sources for buying and selling NFTs. I mean, the technology is designed from the ground up to be self-custodial, and that's one of the biggest selling points. That being said, I do think that there is room for experimentation for creators. They have the same latitude, and this latest thing that we have rolled out, I think, gives creators the power and control to dictate how their tokens are used. And that's part of sort of what we were talking about with hooks. It's a permissionless, expressive world computer we've built, and people can use that to build whatever they want. And as an ecosystem, we can just continue to champion those things that are in keeping with our overall ethos. I should also just mention that I am but an individual that works at OpenSea, and I can't speak for the broader organization. But
I'm surprised you said as much. So thanks, brother. We're fighting the fight, and I'm going to check out these proposals and see where the opportunities are to work with this.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. I want to use a little bit of my own time. So I raise hand, and this is for Zero Age as well. I think what we see is a great open interoperable API kind of that you provide and allowing people to, which is hook in this space, right? And then William is here. Entry can starting from BRC 20.721, the on receiver is like a big thing that enables many use cases, also culprit of many, right? Of security issues. So what's your view on like making it both on permissionless but also endorsable, where someone could actually sign something of their real intent and then either seaport in the future or a interacting contract and actually validate there's endorsements that's been put in place to proceed with certain actions. I asked this as an author of ERC 5453. I'm pushing for endorsable. So if you want to be both permissionless but also enable a certain level of human trust and human authorization, this is what I'm advocating for. What's your view on that? And I also see an opportunity to extend it because the context of call data seems to be a good place to put in endorsements. What's your view on that?
Yeah, there is a pretty wide design space when you're leveraging additional data that gets appended to transfers, right? And Seaport doesn't actually support providing any additional data alongside transfers, which is part of what predicated this development of hooks. It's really designed to be applicable to the widest variety of NFTs, including legacy NFTs that don't have any of that functionality. As a forward-looking solution, I think that there's a lot to be said for it, particularly in L2s and other paradigms where like if you're doing a ZK EVM and the cost is all just based on state diffs, then yeah, you should be tossing everything into call data along with the transfer and leveraging that. It does, as you indicated, also give additional levers that you can poll for whether or not a given transfer should be valid or endorsed, or so I think that it's definitely interesting and worthwhile to investigate further.
I'll give you another yes to both. So I think tokens should not have call data. This was I would not do this again for ERC 721 version 2. I think tokens should be a lot lighter. Seaport has a lot of capability with these zones that people are not even barely touching. And the zones can really do a lot of this stuff that we're talking about. And when, Seaport should be running most of everything. And I hope that one of these versions is the last version. I want to keep seeing new versions. I know people need jobs, but Ethereum needs to solidify, Seaport needs to solidify, and we just need to all build on top of it. So there needs to be something a little bigger than Seaport, a general purpose signing, matching, composer tool. But Seaport by itself, you can do a lot of stuff with zones, including endorsements, including, he already talked about using traits and NFTs. It's already had that for a long time now, a different way you could do it, but it's really powerful. So yeah, I think these use cases with a nice, powerful, generic tool, a lot of dumb, simple tokens, you can really do everything you need.
Yeah, that's sort of my thinking as well. Obviously, I think that this most recent version of Seaport, because it's extensible, should serve as a pretty solid reference point. Unless there's like a security issue that's discovered, my guess is that this is probably the last word in at least the 1X series of Seaport. I might eat my words on that, but I agree with you that eventually it's time to double down on the infrastructure you have if it's working. The last thing I will say, though, is that Seaport is a permissionless hyperstructure, and you can continue to use any version of Seaport that's been deployed once it's out there. It's not going anywhere as long as Ethereum blocks keep churning out and all of that. So, and we've also done our best to deploy it to as many EVM chains as possible. So you can find it just about anywhere. But I agree with the sentiment, and I do think that it's a very flexible tool that you can use to augment otherwise very lightweight basic tokens. And that's not to say that there aren't also use cases for tokens that have additional functionality, but I think that it's important to standardize, and building on simple primitives definitely assists in those standardization efforts.
Yep. Well said. That's a very good discussion ending and closing. The pursuit of interoperability will not end, and just like all ERC devs will continue to go on. I just want to say thank you for joining today. A peek of next step, and next one would be 2 weeks later, and then a friendly time zone for European EastDebug by Nick, who was previously the lead maintainer of Truffle. We'll try to introduce ETHBug, East Working Group from Ethereum Foundation, and Diamond Swap will be built is a DEX built on a Diamond standard. And all ERC devs, we're trying to bring that developer together. We didn't get to the governance piece. You can go ahead and check it out. We love and thank you for coming. Also, by the way, a proper thanks for Prem, who is here. I just greet everyone, but I want to make sure I also don't forget to greet you. Sammy, my teammates, and Sunny is here as well. This is supported by Ethereum Cat Herder, Magician, EIP Fund, Diane, AMFI, and join Discord and Telegram if you happen to. I love you guys to give feedback on how we can run this better. We're looking for volunteers of presenters, reviewers, and future contributors, and other things, communities, industry players. We want to bring it all together. Thanks again for coming. We'll publish this recording and notes. And specifically, thank you for everyone who presented and commented. Look forward for next time. Bring your friends. Bring whoever deserves to be here or you want their opinion. ERC devs. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Yes. Bye.
Thank you, Victor. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for them.